Rockport-Fulton ISD. Dr. Lowry here again. We're going to wrap up Principal Appreciation Month with our longest tenured principal, Denise Poland, who's your proud principal at Live Oak Learning Center. So we're excited to get to know her. So Ms. Poland, thanks for coming in with me today and spending some time. And so kind of tell me, you are that longest lasting principal here. You're the longest tenured. Tell me, what's kept you in Rockport like for all of these years?
Wow. So my journey in Rockport began 21 years ago. I had been teaching for 2 years already in Hayes Consolidated ISD at the time, and my husband's job relocated us. And so at that point, we were young. You need a job, right? And you take what you can get. And I was very fortunate enough to be selected by Rockport-Fulton ISD and fell in love with the community, with the kids, the programs that we're able to offer for kids, and really just a great space that I was able to grow and learn as an educator and as a teacher and continue my career.
Very good. So you mentioned husband. So we have a husband and I believe one child, correct?
Luke.
So tell me a little bit about your family.
So we have Luke as our only son. My husband and I will be married for 22 years this December. So he's in law enforcement. His job relocated us here, and Luke is a senior and will be graduating. And so just exciting. We love baseball, traveling together, the outdoors. And so lots of quality time together.
Very good. So I was going to ask you what you do for fun, but for fun, maybe just following Luke around playing baseball at the moment?
Yes, that consumes most of our weekends. And so usually those extra breaks, whether it's a camping trip or a vacation somewhere else, we usually have to calendar those kinds of things, right?
So you're not like a robot that just shuts down. You have this life outside the world.
No, we do.
That's good.
And trying to make the most of every moment.
That's good. So we're sitting here at Live Oak Learning Center, and we're in kind of your free play area. As you design what it looks like for our youngest learners, right? In that, I think some research of, correct me here, the brain is 80% developed by age 5. Is that right? So not crazy. You're just like your brain is 80% of what it's going to be in your first 5 years
before you even come to us.
Yeah. Right? So it's wild. So as you think about that, really what's important is what happens before they even get here during that 80%. What would be recommendation that you would tell a parent that, hey, prior to coming to us, these are some great things you could do with your children to help that 80% development?
So I think, in thinking about the first school experience for students and what we want kids to have before they come to us, really just loving every moment with being engaged in your child and that dialogue you can have with each other.
Yeah.
And making that experience just learning through their play, right? So if you're at the park or you pick up a stick in the sand, and how do you start to write your name? What does that look like? It doesn't have to be something that's so formal, but just what comes naturally in the environment and taking every opportunity for all of those little minutes. Counting, if you're going up the stairs, I remember with my own son, we had to walk upstairs to his bedroom. And so we learned to count to 15 very quickly, right? Because we counted them every time we went up and every time we came down. So those moments like that, putting students in our laps when they're babies and little and reading to them, books that you pick for them, books that they pick for themselves. When you're on trips together or just traveling in the car, reading the environment around you. Students can so quickly learn that McDonald's is the M that we see. What do we see in Whataburger, the W? All of those pieces. And that's really part of how we develop their brains, right? Yeah. Without it feeling like we have to sit down and study that.
Absolutely.
Right? So just engaging in those spaces and those experiences.
So would you say that it is more or less difficult now with screens taking so much time away from their kids and their environment? Are you seeing a difference in the kid? Is that something you would encourage parents like, hey, screen away, free play?
Absolutely. Okay. I do think screen time has definitely caused a huge change in what we see with students as they come to us. And I think part of it is one of the things we know about screen time, and often the things that kids are seeing on screen time, it's a very quick movement and it's making their brains think very quickly when they're seeing all of that animated digital media. And so when we bring them into the school and we're working to slow it down to work on foundational skills and all the small processes, and especially as we start those foundations into reading and phonics and all of those pieces, sometimes it's harder for their brains to slow down, right?
Yeah.
Because they're used to moving at a very fast pace
Gotcha.
because of what they see with technology and in the media. And so anything you can do to limit that time, of course, is going to be very, very, very beneficial for them. And I also think just being cognizant of what you're allowing them time on.
Sure.
So obviously time for some free on that and gaming type things, but then are there educational type things that they can be doing as well.
Sure. And you kind of mentioned that free play, right? And I remember I hear people tell kids, use your words, right? So I read some research about, when they are free playing, like you were saying, hey, we're not just free playing up the stairs, we're using our words to count.
Right.
Right. Tell me a little bit about that.
So a part of that goes back to just engaging students in dialogue. So often when they're on their device, they're not engaging in that dialogue, right? And so whether it's parallel play with another another sibling in the house or a cousin or just the neighborhood friend or even yourself, you're engaging in just that natural conversation and dialogue. And that teaches a lot to students about how we speak to other people, right? And using our manners, please and thank you.
Sure.
And those pieces as well.
Man, it's so powerful. Like it's these little humans, right, that we get to grow. So kind of that takes me now to what are you trying to do here? So we talked a little bit about, what parents could do to support you, but once we get them, right, and they're 4 years old, 5 years old, 6 years old, what are you trying to do here? What's your goal to have them ready for the big bad world of Fulton Learning Center for third grade?
So I feel like one of the things I've always said, and I can remember this coming into even assistant principal interview several years ago, was that when I think of young students, I feel like we have this job to know that we have an important job to teach them all of these things that sometimes move at a much faster pace than our young kids do. But that also we want to maintain the integrity that they're children and that they're 5 and that they're 4 years old. And so what does that look like? And so I think it's finding this balance and working with our teachers and staff who do an amazing job to know when we have a very structured lesson and a very routine part of our day, but then where do we balance in a space like this where we can just let kids run and play. And they teach each other how to line up. They create those, tag and chase and all of those games that we played as children just on a blacktop, or out in the field. And I think it's important here that we create other learning experiences that are outside of that classroom space. And what areas of learning can we create through that? So we have gardens at our pre-K building that we've worked in partnership with AgriLife that's helped us with that. We're looking to expand that here for our kindergartners. We have our aquariums and our habitat. So Spiky Bob is the newest member of Live Oak Learning Center.
Oh, nice. We'll have to get a picture of that. Yeah.
Bearded dragon there. And so the kids have thoroughly enjoyed him. And then, of course, our fish aquariums. We have our Kivas in the library where it's just really creating a unique learning space that I think transforms the area for where students can learn and what you can do with that. We have Discovery Den that supports our pre-K students and our kindergartners, where it does offer them the opportunity for, housekeeping and dramatic play and dress up and musical instruments and things like that. And so it's creating all of those experiences, and I think keeping that alive within the realm of what we know the state is requiring of us. So that when we do send them to Fulton, we've sent them with this well-rounded experience that they can be, creative and critical thinkers and logical thinkers and have all the tools that they need to be successful there.
Very good. So it sounds like, obviously we have these ideas of what we want to do, and then obviously the state tells us, hey, here's within this confinement, right? So as we work on all those things, we're really excited for what's going on here at Live Oak and what's going on in partnership with you and Mrs. Cox. We can see a lot of alignment there, so that's really exciting. So tell me a little bit, kind of switching gears to you, what was your education? I think you're a Bobcat, is that correct? So tell us a little bit about your education and what you studied and focused on to be in this place academically.
So actually graduating high school, I was determined I wasn't going to be a teacher. I wasn't going into education. I had this ambition that I was going to be a physical therapist. And I think part and so it was because everybody told me I was the person that was supposed to be the teacher in my class. And I was like, I'm going to prove you wrong. I'm going to do something different, like in spite of what
Sure.
everybody knew my natural path should be, right? Because I remember being the student in school that, I would steal the extra worksheets on a Friday to take them home and play school over the weekend, right?
Sure. Yeah.
And so it was my calling. It was where
Yeah.
it was where I was supposed to serve
Absolutely.
and lead. And so when I graduated high school, I was a pirate. So sometimes I like to think that, once a pirate, always a pirate. And so finding home in Rockport, I think was also special that way too. Went to Southwest Texas, which is now Texas State.
Yeah.
I graduated with my undergrad, and that was when the name change was happening. And I actually had the opportunity to I could have put Texas State on my diploma if I'd wanted to, but I chose Southwest Texas because that's what I was committed to when I signed up to be a Bobcat.
Nice.
So I did. I started my first semester and first year there in San Marcos in the health field, and then by semester went to the Department of Education and never looked back. So I finished my undergrad with an emphasis in early childhood education, and then went straight into graduate school with Southwest Texas at the time. And that's how I began my career with Hayes Consolidated as I was working on my master's program.
And what's your master's degree in?
So, interdisciplinary studies
Okay.
with curriculum and instruction.
Very good. Very good. So as we kind of wrap up, what's going on, I think it's always important you get to be around these kids all the time. What would be one big piece of advice that you would tell a parent? And I know you kind of touched on a few things, but tell me one thing that you're like, man, if parents could do this one or two things, it would improve the learning for their child. What's one or two things you would tell a parent?
I would say first and foremost, most important, just read with your students.
Sure.
Read and share that love of reading. And then always be an advocate for them. Be an advocate for their learning.
Yeah.
And make sure that, they know you're an advocate for their learning and that you support those that are helping them in that journey, right? And that we're a team.
Absolutely.
Be a partnership with those first adults that you encounter as your child goes off to school.
Yep.
So that we can work together because we all want what's best for kids, right? That's our goal. Kids are first.
So, real quickly as we wrap up, I want to hear two pieces of advice. One, that you would want to tell your little friends here. What's one thing that you wish you could tell all your little friends right now while they're at this age?
So I think when I think about our 4-year-olds growing up, they become that senior in high school. Live in every moment.
Yeah.
Like enjoy everything you get to experience, and make the most of that. Like don't grow up too fast.
Very good.
Don't grow up.
And is that advice you'd tell an older kid too?
Absolutely.
Okay, very good. So don't grow up. Stay that little child
Yeah,
that you've been.
And
Well,
enjoy all those moments.
there it is.
Don't be in a hurry.
That's good. Yeah, life will speed up on you. So I really appreciate you coming out today. Thank you for spending this time with us, Rockport. Hope you got to know Denise Pullen just a little bit today. She can always use that support. And if you ever have want advice on, hey, what do I want to do in terms of to ensure that these first 4 years before we get them to school, that we are encouraging that 80% growth in their brain, and we are doing the reading, and we are limiting that screen time for them so that they can learn to process things at the speed of life, not the speed of a screen. Miss Pullen's always here. So thank you so much for spending time with us. Have a wonderful day.